A waiter mistook my husband for the wrong man, the one I'd been seeing. A waiter at the restaurant I was with my husband mistook my husband for someone else, the wrong man, the one that I'd been seeing. And it was just really horrible. Marcus didn't even listen to me. And after he left that restaurant and went home, I haven't seen him since that night. It's been a whole week. I don't know where he's at. I've been calling. He's not picking. I've texted more times than I can count, but nothing. Just silence. And I'm going really crazy. I don't know what to expect. I would have preferred for him to get angry and do something, but there's been nothing. I've gone to his workplace several times, but he hasn't shown up at work either. And honestly, I am so confused and scared. Things weren't supposed to happen like that. Marcus wasn't supposed to find out about anything. I'm supposed to still be that woman he's in love with, the one he thinks the world of. But right now I have no idea who I am to him anymore. Not after the way he looked at me before he left the restaurant that evening. I always knew the truth would destroy everything. I just never thought it would happen like this. Marcus and I have been married for almost 6 years. We dated for a few months before Marcus proposed to me. To Marcus, I was his perfect dream woman. He has always made me feel special. He really did love me, and I love him too, very much. But it was all lies. Not my feelings for Marcus, my life, the one he knew. I wasn't the perfect girl that I painted myself to be. I wasn't that career woman I pretended to be, the one who decided to quit her job just to start a family, the one who knew how to hold a home. I wasn't anything like that. Before I met Marcus, I was literally nothing. I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of, things that I don't even want to be talking about here. I know that most people call men cheats. They lie and cheat all the time on their woman. But in my case, it was me who was cheating. I know what you're all thinking, but I just couldn't help myself. I kept ruining every good relationship I had before Marcus. They say love is always enough, but that wasn't my case, not at all. I loved to party and get wild, and getting wild always involved me being with someone else at that moment. It was like a habit I couldn't break, like an addiction. And each time, whenever I messed up, I got easily caught. And then they break up with me. It became a regular pattern, until Marcus came along. I met Marcus at some work party. My cousin forced me to attend it with her. I had just gone through another heartbreak at that time. I cheated and got caught again, and my ex ended things with me. So she wanted me to come out of the house instead of mopping around. Coincidentally, Marcus happened to be there for some work purpose. He was the first to speak to me that day. I remember so well how I felt, having such a handsome man talking to me. He assumed I worked for that company. He mistook me for my cousin, and I know I should have corrected him, but I just couldn't. I liked how easy it was to speak with him. He made me laugh throughout that party. He kept making jokes about anything that interested him there. At the end of that evening, Marcus asked for my number, and I gave him. He texted me that night, and we went on our official first date after a week of talking on the phone. And within 2 weeks of meeting, we were dating already. Everything between us was moving real fast. I had so many times to correct Marcus. I could have told him that I didn't have a job, and that my life wasn't worth much, but I just loved how he made me feel. He made me feel like I belonged, like I really wasn't that same person I was in the past. So I kept lying. I knew my cousin's work schedule. I lived with her for many years. I heard her complain about some work issues, so it was easy to continue with my lies. My cousin kept warning me that he was going to find out, and I kept promising myself that I was going to tell him eventually. But there was just never the right timing, because within a few months of dating, Marcus had proposed to me and we were getting married. So I just kept up the lies. I made myself believe that Marcus did love me for me, not just because of the things I told him that I am. I lied to Marcus that I wanted to be a housewife after we got married. I knew I couldn't keep up the lies about going to work every day, especially with Marcus insisting on dropping me off each time. Marcus was supportive of my decision. He wanted us to have 4 kids. He had even picked out their names and started saving up for their school, although I never told him the truth about my complicated womb. While I was still fooling around, I was always careful not to get pregnant. So I took precautions very well, except that one time. I had gotten pregnant and I knew my ex-boyfriend wasn't the father, so I tried to get rid of it. But the drugs complicated a lot of issues, and I had to be rushed to the hospital, and a surgery was done. The drugs damaged my womb. The doctor said I have 5% chances of ever having another baby. But I couldn't tell Marcus that. I didn't want him to leave me or start treating me differently. So I pretended like I wanted kids too, that I just wasn't getting pregnant for no reason in particular. I know what you guys already think, but I'm sure none of you would want to lose Marcus if you were in my shoes, just because of your stupid past. Maybe if it was only the secret about my past I was keeping, Marcus would have forgiven me. If I didn't cheat on him like I did with the rest, I really wanted to stay faithful to Marcus. I told myself that I wouldn't mess things up between us, because a marriage was different from a relationship, but it was really hard. Although for the first couple of years of our marriage, I didn't do anything bad. I stopped going to the club. I even cut off all my old friends. The ones that encouraged me to do all of those stuff. I made new friends, the ones I knew Marcus would encourage me to have. I was the perfect wife, or should I say I made myself a perfect wife for him. I cooked his meals and I listened to him talk about his day. I organized family dinners or lunches on special dates like birthdays, anniversaries, or any kind of celebration. I even invite our friends over every month for lunch at our place. It was the things that a good wife would do, and I did exactly that, until someone reminded me of what I had been missing since I got married. Emily, or as we used to call her, Cece. I met her one day while I was grocery shopping. She was the first one to recognize me. We hugged and promised to catch up. Honestly, I swear I was planning to delete her number once I got home that afternoon. I didn't want any reminders of my past life. But then I was just tempted to check her out on social media. I still remembered her name. So I went there and searched for her. Cece wasn't someone like me. She had always been single and enjoyed having fun with different men, and she wasn't shy about it. She would post pictures of herself on social media and tag herself a free whore. She wasn't like me who wanted a bit of both worlds. She was all in. So looking through her social media, I don't know why. But I found myself missing out on our times together. We did crazy things together back then. And then I found an old picture of us together. I didn't even know she had posted it then. We were both totally drunk that day at a party and decided to take pictures. I didn't think she'd post me because she had always known how I felt about being posted on social media. But the picture was there and she had tagged it me and my best friend. Well, to be honest, the exact word she used wasn't best friend, but I'll rather not say that here. I found myself texting her the next minute, and before I knew it, we were planning to meet that night. At a club. I don't know why I agreed to meeting her there, but Marcus wasn't home. He had gone on a trip, and I thought a fun night out wouldn't hurt. I shouldn't have. But I convinced myself that it was fine. Nothing could happen in one night anyway, right? So I wore a sexy dress that I had bought one day because I missed dressing that way, but I never wore it once. But it felt like the perfect dress for that night. Cece had texted me the address of the club we were meeting at, so I just called a cab and gave him the address. It was an hour drive away from my house. It was perfect. Nobody would catch me that way. I went into that club, and Cece spotted me almost immediately. She was quite popular in the club, because as we went, she kept getting dirty compliments from most men. She told me not to mind them. She apparently was working in the club as one of their best strippers. She brought me to a table where her friends were at, and she introduced me to them. I was offered a drink. I should have refused it, but I didn't want to behave like some newbie, so I accepted it and drank it. Cece had introduced me as her old friend that they did nasty things together. I felt like I had to keep up the image. After 3 strong shots, I was as free as I could be. My ring wasn't on my finger that night, so when one of her friends assumed I was single, I didn't correct him. I just let him flirt with me, even when he put his hand on my thigh. I didn't remove it. Even when his hand went further up and underneath my dress, I still didn't stop it. And when he suggested that we go to his house, I didn't object. I stood up and followed him. I even waved Cece goodbye while she laughed and told me not to catch a disease. Crazy how I did catch one that I treated for a whole week before it went. Luckily, Marcus didn't notice. I pretended to be ill so I didn't have sex with him and transferred it, until I was sure I was totally fine. The morning after I woke up in a completely different bed, totally naked. I was so ashamed of myself. I remember that I left the stranger's house panicking that Marcus would catch me. I was so scared, and I kept blaming the alcohol and Cece for my decision. It wasn't me at all, because I was completely innocent. I was persuaded to take those drinks and persuaded to follow the stranger home. It was the only excuse I could give myself for what I did. So I stuck with it. I didn't contact Cece for another week. I wanted to avoid getting into trouble again. Luckily, Marcus didn't suspect a thing about that night. When he got home the afternoon of that day and asked about my day, I told him that I spent it indoors, and he didn't question it. But it didn't take very long for my resolve to be broken again. I missed having that much fun, drinking and not bothering about nothing. The crazy thing was, I didn't even have much to bother about, except keeping up my perfect wife image. But it was really tiring, having to lie to be this person I wasn't for many years. So picking the phone and texting Cece the next time Marcus was out of town was easy. Although I promised myself that I was not going to go home with anybody, that I was only going to party and leave, but I've quickly discovered that I make a lot of promises that I can't keep. Because that night was the night I met him, Daniel, the secret lover I thought I could get away with. Daniel had been friends with Cece for several years apparently, and she only had good things to tell me about him. Cece knew I was married. I confessed it to her after I ignored her that week, but she didn't mind that I was married. Her exact words had been, "Well, a girl's a girl, and she's still got to have fun." So she introduced me to Daniel. Daniel and I ended up talking and flirting throughout the evening, until I was ready to go back home. But I didn't leave with Daniel that night, though. We left separately to our different homes. And he did get my number, though, and texted me the next morning. He told me he enjoyed our conversation and wanted us to be friends. I knew that Daniel wanted to be everything but friends. I knew he was attracted to me and wanted just that one thing, but I still went along with it anyway. I told myself that a little flirting wouldn't hurt, that I wasn't doing anything bad because I wasn't sleeping with him yet. Daniel and I kept texting each other after that day. I confessed to him that I was married, and Daniel didn't mind. He just called Marcus a lucky dude and went ahead to ignore that part of the conversation. I knew I was really attracted to Daniel, and a friendship with him was something that should never have happened, but I just liked being seen. I liked feeling sexy. Daniel and I eventually arranged to meet after 1 week of speaking constantly on the phone. We agreed to meet at his place. I didn't want to risk anyone that knew I was married seeing us together, so his place was the safest option. Daniel and I slept together that very first day. I didn't plan for it to happen, but it just did. But this time I ensured we used protection. I didn't want what happened the last time to happen again. After we had sex, I went home to Marcus like nothing happened. When he asked where I was coming from, I told him I visited an old friend that came into town. Marcus didn't doubt me, and I went to take a shower quickly to get rid of what had happened a few hours ago. I know I was supposed to feel guilty, but I didn't. Not like the first time it happened. I felt so different, like it was bound to happen anyway. So when Daniel texted me that night and thanked me for the good time, and also asked if we could meet again, I agreed to it. I was convinced that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just having fun, just like Cece said. It was meant to be harmless, nothing much. Daniel knew what not to expect. We went clubbing together all the time. We drank and did stupid things together. While I still pretended to be a good wife to Marcus, I became an even more perfect liar, lying about where I was all the time, who I was with, and what I was doing. And after a while, I knew Marcus was starting to ask questions, because I was out all the time hanging out with Daniel and then Cece. Daniel suggested I told Marcus that I wanted to have a hobby. I thought it was a good idea at the time, so I told Marcus exactly that. I told him it was a cooking class. Marcus was pleased with the idea. He even gave me the money to pay for the classes. I used that money to buy expensive clothes for Daniel. I always spent all of my money on him. I thought it was normal. It felt like I was paying him for the great sex. So I never thought much of it when he demanded money from me. And it continued like that until I found out something really shocking and upsetting. Marcus and I grew really bold after several months of cheating and not getting caught. We started going to public spaces together. It wasn't somewhere really public, mostly a restaurant or someplace else. It was because Daniel complained that he was starting to feel like a dark secret. He wanted to hang out during the day, in open spaces too, and I accepted the idea. We went to this particular restaurant after trying different places. It was a new restaurant, but we instantly became regulars there. They had great food, and it was a perfect place to not be seen. You could book private tables for couples, and the location was in a quite remote area, so there weren't always many people there. Usually when we spent the night together, we would either go there for breakfast or lunch. Since the restaurant was close to Daniel's place too, I never thought that anything could go wrong, just for being a regular at a restaurant. But it did. Everything went completely wrong. Marcus had suddenly decided that we should go out for dinner. He wanted to make up for being too busy for the last few months. He even bought me a dress to wear that day. It was supposed to start and end sweetly, although he didn't tell me where exactly we were going. He simply told me that I was going to love it. My mind never processed that it was going to the exact same place. Before that dinner, I had ended things with Daniel. I found out he wasn't only a liar, but a betrayal. He and Cece were apparently dating, and they had both arranged to turn me into some sort of money bag. I felt really angry and disappointed that day, when I decided to visit Daniel unannounced. I went there to surprise him. Marcus had suddenly gone on an unplanned trip that morning, and I had initially told Daniel that I couldn't come that day. But then when Marcus had to leave, I thought to surprise Daniel. I even stopped by that restaurant and bought us food. His door wasn't closed when I arrived, and I just walked in. I saw Cece and Daniel having sex on his bed. Cece, who had sworn that Daniel was more like her brother to me, the day she introduced us together. I was so angry, and I may have broken a few things in his house before I left. I deleted both their numbers as soon as I left his place. I promised myself that I was never going to see them ever again. And I really did mean it. I thought it was good it ended the way it did. I was almost glad that I really got away with the affair. I still had my marriage. I didn't lose anything, or so I thought, because the minute we arrived at that same restaurant, I started to panic a little. I was nervous that Daniel could come around any time to maybe eat, but I kept comforting myself that it was unlikely to happen, and it didn't. But another awful thing happened instead. The waiter that came to attend to us. He recognized me immediately. He was the guy mostly on shift whenever I came around, and we had always kind of teased each other whenever I went there. He didn't really recognize Daniel. I mostly picked up our food from there. And the times we went together, that particular waiter had always been off duty. He'd only seen Daniel twice, but he always knew I was picking food for both of us, so when he saw me, he just started talking. "Good evening, ma'am. It's great to see you again. The wine will be on the house since you and your partner are regulars here." I tried to stop him from talking. I wanted him to leave as soon as possible, but Marcus asked him to wait. He pretended like he knew who the waiter was talking about. He asked him a few questions, and that loose mouth kept on spilling. He told Marcus how often I came to pick food for us and how his boss was always pleased to see me, because I usually buy the expensive things on the menu. Marcus kept listening to the waiter go on and on about how cute we were as a couple, and how the other servers would say we were a lovely couple, when the waiter finally left after destroying my life. Marcus looked at me for a very long time without saying anything. I tried to say something, but he just got up and left. He didn't even care that we came together. I was so scared going back home. I didn't know what to think or expect. And when I finally got home, Marcus was stuffing some clothes into his bag. He was really angry, I could tell. I remember how he glared at me when I walked in. Then he walked towards me and then stopped. I really thought he was going to hit me when he did that, but he just pointed his finger at me and spoke really angrily. All this while, I thought I was being too busy to spend time with you. I thought it was my fault that we had some space between us, but you were actually getting busy with your lover, frolicking around town with him, you whore. I cannot forget those words. They're stuck in my brain no matter how hard I've tried to get rid of them. It was the first time I had ever had Marcus being that angry with anyone, especially me. He never raised his voice once at me, and we usually settled every argument or misunderstanding by talking. But Marcus wasn't listening to me, not that night, not even when I swore to him that it was already over, or when I told him that it was a momentary lapse in my thinking. He still didn't listen. He pushed me away when I tried to touch him, and he just left. and he hasn't shown up since then. I know that everything is my fault, that I did this to myself, but I really cannot live without Marcus. I really, really love him, and I don't know what else to do. I'm scared of involving our friends or family. I'm scared their reactions would mirror his. What do you guys think I can do? Please, update. It's been the most horrible 3 months of my life. I've always thought that nothing can get worse than having strings of broken relationships, but I was so wrong. My life now is nothing to write home about. Not that there's anywhere I can call home anymore anyway. It was at a family event that Marcus decided to ruin me completely. It was my parents' 50th anniversary, and they decided to have a party. I wasn't sure if Marcus was going to come. I was scared my parents were going to find out that something was wrong, and my parents also invited his family, and all our friends too. I was so glad when he showed up at the party. His family too was there. So were our friends. I thought it meant that Marcus was finally coming around, that maybe, just maybe, there was hope for us again, but I had never been so wrong about anything else in my life, because that wasn't what Marcus was doing. I knew he was still angry with the way he kept relating with everybody else but me. But I tried to pretend like everything was okay with us, that we were just apart because I was attending to other people too. But then, Marcus, he did something totally shocking when it was time to give my parents gifts. He took the microphone and told everyone that he had a gift, but it wasn't for my parents. It was for his beautiful wife, as he said. I don't know what I was expecting. I just remember feeling so anxious and at the same time happy. I really thought that Marcus was finally forgiving me. But then he had a projector brought in and asked that the lights were turned off. I was confused at first, but I thought it had to be pictures or memories of us together. But when that video started, I knew it wasn't any memories. It was my doom. Marcus had gathered pictures of me. I don't know how he got them. He must have contacted one of my stupid ex, Jeremiah. The bastard had wanted to get evidence of me cheating, so he stalked me for days and took different pictures of me with different guys, in compromising positions. He sent that video to the boyfriend I was dating back then and caused him to break up with me. He told me that he was going to destroy me, but then I moved away, far away from him, and went to live with my cousin instead. And I didn't even think he would still keep that video after all these years. The wicked snake just wanted any chance he could get to ruin me. How he had met with Marcus, or how Marcus had found out about him, is a mystery I'll never be able to solve. But they did meet, and he had given that video to Marcus. And there it was on the screen, me with different guys. Some I was kissing, some I was having sex with. But the pictures in the video were so clear, even though they were old. There was no doubt it was me in there. I could hear my parents gasp in shock, and everybody else too was murmuring. I was scared. I tried to plead with Marcus with my eyes to stop it, but he just looked at me in unconcealed anger and disgust. The video continued rolling, showing me with those guys that I could barely remember their names. Most of them had been at the club. It was nothing really special. I just thought I was having fun. But then the last 8 pictures, they were of me and my recent lover, Daniel. I don't know if it was possible to get pictures of the two of us together, when I wasn't even seeing him anymore. But it's Marcus. He was deeply connected, and he just had to make phone calls to get what he wanted. And what he wanted at that moment was to destroy me. And he succeeded, tearing my heart chunk by chunk until nothing was left, while staring at myself on that screen. After the video finished playing, Marcus told everyone what happened at the restaurant, how the waiter had mistaken him for my other lover, and how he was finally able to confirm his suspicion. He called me an unpaid whore in front of the whole family and our friends, and they all seemed to agree. I sat there in shame. I couldn't even say a word. Tears just kept falling down my face. After Marcus was done telling them about everything, including my damaged womb, he handed me divorce papers and told me to sign them right there and then. I tried to beg him, tell him I wasn't that person anymore. I swore that I would never cheat on him again. I promised him that he could punish me anyhow he wanted if he just allowed me to stay with him. But Marcus wasn't listening to me, and his sister decided to take matters into her own hands. She dragged my hair and demanded that I held the pen. The pain of having my hair pulled tightly made me obey. She told me to sign the divorce papers, but I hesitated. The pain in my head was suddenly not as heavy as the one in my heart. But then she pulled my hair even more, causing me to cry out. But no one intervened. No one tried to stop her from hurting me. They just watched, completely upset and disgusted by me. With shaky hands, I signed the divorce papers. It felt like I was signing a death certificate instead. Mine. I remember having a panic attack right there. The difficulty to breathe. It was totally horrible, because everyone thought I was faking it to get sympathy. No one even paid me any attention. They all just started leaving, including my mom. She wouldn't even look at me as she left. But I could see that she was visibly upset. My friends, Marcus's friends, family friends, everyone. They all left me, including Marcus, who before leaving told me that, "I hope you're miserable because that's the only way I want to picture you for the rest of your life." And then he left me too. Nobody cared, not anymore, not after seeing everything that I was, the shameless whore who couldn't stick with one man. It was one of the staff there that helped me with the panic attack. I know she didn't do it out of the goodness of her heart. She probably did it so no one died at her workplace, and perhaps put her out of a job. She had been there when Marcus was tearing down my image, and I could tell that she felt totally disgusted by me too. Because when I finally started breathing better, she asked me to leave immediately. Without any of the hospitality they were usually trained with. I felt so ashamed as I walked out of there. And it felt like the street even knew, because of the stares I kept getting. I just was so uncomfortable walking that street. It felt like the world knew my shame, and I felt so dirty. So even though our house was just 30 minutes away on foot, I couldn't walk. I just called a cab so I could go home. But I got another shock of my life when I got there. An eviction notice mail was at the door. I was really shaken. The letter hadn't been there when I left for the event. I couldn't understand, but when I read it, I knew I was just totally doomed. Apparently Marcus had sold the house with me still in it. He clearly now hates me so much that he cannot even stand us living together, or him having to deal with throwing me out. I had 3 days to get my things and leave according to that letter. Everything bad was just happening all at once. I tried to call any of my friends so I could get a place to stay, but every one of them had blocked me, even on social media. I couldn't even blame them. All of them didn't know the truth about me either. I finally found a tiny self-contained room on the outskirts of town. The walls were cracked, the door doesn't even lock well, and the bathroom looked like something out of a horror movie. But it was all I could afford. I paid for 6 months up front with almost all the money I had left, leaving me with barely enough for food and transport. Every morning when I wake up, I see the cracked ceiling, and it reminds me that I broke something inside myself long before Marcus broke things for me. That ceiling has become some kind of mirror, showing me exactly what I've become. And as for Daniel, the coward I cheated with, the one whose name the waiter mistakenly used that night at the restaurant, well, life had its own way of dealing with him too. A few weeks after I moved into my miserable little apartment, I heard from someone who used to work at the bar we frequented that Daniel had been arrested. Honestly, when I heard it, I wasn't even surprised. Daniel had always been reckless. I don't know what exactly he did. All they told me was that it was serious. Something to do with money, fraud, maybe even drugs. Daniel was just in jail, and it didn't look like he was coming out anytime soon. When I heard that news, I felt sick. Not just because I had wasted parts of my life with him, not just because he had contributed to the ruin of my marriage, but because I had once looked at him as some kind of escape, some kind of thrill. And in the end, he was just another empty disaster I willingly walked into. It made me wonder if destruction was the only thing I'd ever been good at. I regret ever stepping into that club the night I met Daniel. I regret lying to Marcus the first time he mistook me for my cousin. I regret not telling him the truth even once. Not even when he placed the ring on my finger. I regret every night I snuck around thinking I was being clever. I regret every moment I took Marcus's kindness for granted. I regret every time I told myself that I couldn't help it. Because I can see now that I wasn't addicted to cheating. I was addicted to being desired, to being wanted, to the rush of feeling admired by someone new. And that addiction cost me the one man who had loved me without conditions. Marcus didn't deserve what I did to him, not in any universe. He was good, patient, thoughtful, soft-spoken. He wasn't flashy or exciting like the men I used to throw myself at, But he was steady and loyal and real, and I destroyed us. Sometimes I lie awake imagining what he must think of me now. He must still hate me. He must regret having spent 6 whole years married to a lie. He must wish to erase every part of his life that has me in it. And it sounds so painful to even think of. I wish I could just go back in time and undo all of these. Or even perhaps just do something, anything at all, just to get Marcus to look at me the way he once did, or love me the way he did before. But none of that changes what I've done. None of that brings Marcus back. None of that gets my parents to unblock me or makes my sister pick up my calls. I walk through life hoping one day someone will give me a chance to start again, to rebuild, to exist without feeling like everything I touch turns to ash. But right now, it still feels like punishment. It feels like I'm living in the consequences of every lie I ever told. And even though it's been 3 months, the pain hasn't faded. The shame hasn't faded. The loneliness hasn't faded. I destroyed the only good thing I ever had, and I don't know if I'll ever stop paying for it.